Hi, and welcome to the third season of the Lunch and Unlearn session with me, Katie Caruan. I'm really looking forward to this season, which has the theme Unlearning the Stories We Tell Ourselves. And of course, due to ethics, I'm not in a position to share specifics with my clients or the discussions that we have, but I can absolutely share my own experiences and my own insights. And I noticed some common themes among the people I meet during the week who are struggling in different ways, either to find a new job or to build a new career, to start their own business, or just to doing a greater job as a leader or a manager. So the common denominator for this is that we keep on telling ourselves stories. And this is very powerful because we believe them to be true. And during this season, we're going to explore that a little bit and see maybe I can inspire you to become aware and challenge yourself a little bit about some of the stories that you tell yourself. Today, setting the scene is all about the perspective, the approach to this topic. And if you have followed me in the past, you will know that the reason why I'm focusing on unlearning is that I really find it fascinating to discover those behaviors, those patterns that are not serving us anymore, and what it takes to disengage from that, to deselect that, to choose something else, and implement that as the new business as usual or the new story we tell ourselves. So, my ambition for this season is to make sure that you take away a few insights, a few questions. Maybe they're useful to you or somebody around you that you care about. And maybe it will prove helpful if you're struggling or if somebody you know are struggling with something. So let's get to it then. And kicking off this perspective, I will go into the season with a lot more detail in terms of how to approach our limiting beliefs and how to keep our values close at hand and top of mind, actually, when we navigate and face challenges. And I will this season also be very transparent in terms of sharing my own insights and my own thinking and my own stories that hopefully that will prove helpful to you as well. And this reminds me as well, if you have a comment, if you have something you want to ask me, feel free to share that as we go along, or if you're watching the replay, add it to the chat afterwards and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So welcome to those of you listening in live, and this is a quick one, 15 minutes, approximately every week, except for the weeks I'm traveling. But this week we're kicking off this season 3, and I would like you to actually take away a first thing here regarding some examples that might sound familiar either to yourself or to somebody close to you. Stories that I've been telling myself for a long time. It has to be, I would say, split into 3 different categories. So I have the professional stories that I tell myself all the time. I have the mental stories that I tell myself all the time, and also the physical stories. So to me, all of these 3 perspectives are important to cover, and I'll share some examples with you, and maybe some of that will resonate with you. First of all, I mentioned the professional stories that I've always been telling myself. An example of that could be, for instance, I have to take on more responsibilities or do something very different next time I'm making a career move. That was a story I told myself for a long time, both as an employee, as a manager, and also as a small business owner. Did it show to be helpful? Maybe it was a bit stressful. And I started to look at that and tell myself that I've always been telling myself that I have to learn more to stay in demand, either as an attractive employee or as an attractive business partner or vendor. And when I started to look at that to say, okay, do I have to learn more? What does that do to me? Well, first of all, it was quite busy. It was quite stressful to always try to add more knowledge, add more skills, increase the skills all the time. I was split between different initiatives and different ambitions of mine. And it didn't really help me in that space. So when I realized I could actually swap around and tell myself another story. So instead of saying I have to learn more to stay in demand, I started telling myself I have to unlearn more to stay in demand. And that change of perspective helped me actually focusing on the right things, deselecting a number of things, and then remain focused and also leave the impression and the perception of being very niched in my own way. That was one example. And I can see some comments coming in, so please continue adding that, and I'll get to that in a second. Another example would have to do with my mental challenge, which has to do with which power do I give my thoughts? I used to come from a background where I was thinking in terms of, well, my thoughts seem real to me. I need to understand them, I need to analyze, and then I need to act upon them. And it could also be quite painful, right? Unless I change the perspective and started to see that maybe it's the opposite. Maybe my thoughts are not true or real. We all know if you sleep upon something, you may see it differently the next day, right? So instead, I told myself another story that, okay, I don't have to understand or analyze or act upon my thoughts. I could let them sink in or just vanish or just let it go. And this is not a, I would say, trivial thing to do overnight. So it takes some practice because we are so catched up, we are so caught up in our thinking all the time. And many of the things around us are based upon thinking and perceptions and emotions, and that we are or should or need to act upon that. So a big mindset shift with me was in that space as well. And finally, before I get to some of the comments here, I also want to share a physical challenge, a physical story that I told myself for many, many years, which has been in the area of my weight. Which the story I was telling myself was that since I've been struggling with weight issues for some time, I told myself all the time that I need to lose weight in order to improve my health. And then when I started to tune in to alternative views and methods and tools in that space, I realized there is another story I can tell myself. So I need to unlearn the current one and learn another one, which could be instead actually switching around the whole thing into I need to improve my health in order to lose weight, which is what I'm doing now, right now, actually, by following some great apps and tools and communities that are committed to intermittent fasting. So those were just a few examples about the stories I'm telling myself from a professional, from a mental, but also from a physical perspective. Enough about me. I'm going to look through some of the comments here, and Michael is here, and he's interested to find out more about a framework to first create a narrative about yourself, and secondly, a framework to change that framework. Okay, I have some ideas for you already today, Michael, and throughout this season, we will actually be covering a number of techniques and tools, but I'll keep it really, really short because I know most of you are busy, and it's important to practice these things bit by bit. So today I will just leave you with a few things, and then if you come back for the upcoming episodes, you're welcome to take part in more frameworks and ideas. So thank you for adding that, Michael. And on that point, let us move on here. I'm going to challenge you every time you decide to tune into this. I'm going to challenge you to really think about what stories are you telling yourself? Now, I shared 3 stories that I've been telling myself for a long, long time, actually decades, which also tell us that this is really powerful stuff. And when I meet my clients every week, I can recognize many of the same or similar themes in them. And then we play with changing perspectives, which is really, really powerful. So think about for yourself, What are the stories that you are telling yourself currently that are causing you struggle or pain or leading to situations where you're not happy or fulfilled? What is it? What is it that you discover about yourself and your behavior? When does that happen? What happens? What is it that you constantly do, even though deep inside you know it doesn't lead where I would like it to go? On that point, I promised I will share some techniques here. And let's go on a very, I would say, initial basic discovery together right now. I'm going to convey 3 questions that you can take away from this to start that kind of nurturing of these ideas. And the first question you can ask yourself to convey your unluck, maybe some of the stories that you are telling yourself that you do not benefit from anymore. The first is not actually a question, it's actually a sentence that you need to complete. So the sentence starts off by saying, I always try to da da. If you think about it for yourself, what is it that you always try to? This is linked through to your values and through your limiting beliefs. It will affect your behaviors because those lead to these stories that you're telling yourself automatically. I always try to something. A second sentence that you can complete, I constantly have to. I constantly have to. There is a story behind that. And that might not be of service to you anymore. So think about that. What is that about? What is it that you constantly have to do? I constantly have to, da da. And then thirdly, the last one for today, I avoid feeling da da. I do everything to avoid feeling da da. What is that? And just as an example for myself, when I shared the fact that I've been struggling with weight issues, I always try to avoid feeling hungry. Very simple. It did not serve me very well in terms of wanting to lose weight and being successful at that. So that was a leading theme that I was telling myself, and that was stopping me from actually gaining results instead of gaining weight. So think about these 3 questions or things to complete here. I always try to, I constantly have to, and I avoid feeling low. Then you are onto something that you can actually start exploring more. Maybe you have a good friend, maybe you have a mentor or a coach, and you can discuss and you can share and you can bounce some ideas because this is difficult to handle by yourself. You need somebody to spar with. So hopefully you have somebody that you can engage in. And very often this is a lot of fun when you are partnering up with somebody and being there for each other, supportive, but also challenging and holding yourself accountable for the things, the stories that you have told yourself. When you want that, to change that narrative, to change that perspective, how can you phrase that? What is it that you need to tell yourself instead? Like I did with one of my examples today, when I, instead of thinking I need to lose weight in order to improve my health, I swapped around and said, I need to improve my health in order to lose weight. Okay, I am excited to see if anyone would like to reach out or share either now or later on. And I would encourage you to reflect about this. I would encourage you to set aside some time to let this grow, to develop as a thought, and to make sure that you have somebody to bounce these ideas with. And thanks for sharing that you found it useful, Michael. I really appreciate that feedback. Now, this is just the start, so we will have a number of sessions on Thursdays moving forward, and I hope that you will be revisiting and maybe also re-listening and sharing this with somebody else who could benefit from it. And we are getting very close to the full 15 minutes here, so the only thing I'm going to do is to remind you that there is more on my website, leaderinthemand.com, about unlearning. I will add the replays of these Lunch and Learn sessions as well. And I hope you found it useful, and reach out if you want to have a chat over a cup of virtual coffee as well. Next time, I'm going to take this to the next stage. I'm going to stick to my 3 stories that I've been telling myself for decades, and now I'm starting to tell myself other stories in the same space. And next time we'll be heavily focusing on missed opportunity. That's something I can recognize in myself, but also in many people that I meet during my work as a coach and as a consultant. So hopefully you will find that interesting, and I hope to see you back again next time. With that, thank you for joining in and listening in and maybe re-listening in. I wish you a great continued day and good luck in your unlearning the stories you tell yourself. Take care. Bye.